Hi, I'm Jeff, and welcome to another one of my videos where I take a look at all the new comic books coming out on either August 9th or 10th, 2022. And I ask myself the question, what one new comic book would I buy this week if I could buy just one book? This is kind of an odd week for me this week. I basically have one book on my poll, and I have two books that I'm thinking of possibly picking up because this week is so light for me personally. But we'll get into all of that in just a moment. Let's start off first by taking a look back at my pick from 2 weeks ago, which was Something is Killing the Children, issue number 25. And the question remains, was it a worthy and worthwhile pick to be my just one book pick of the week? And the answer is maybe. Maybe. I think this is my first maybe. I loved it. I'm a big Something is Killing the Children fan. But I'm way behind on reading my comic book, so I haven't read any of the other books that I bought that week. I haven't really noted that anything of interest specifically happened on the secondary market with any of the books that came out that week. So I'm sticking with, sure, Something is Killing the Children number 25 was a good pick, maybe, for me. Yes, for you, maybe. The one thing I want to say is that even hardcore fans of Something is Killing the Children are starting to wane on the title, and I think for the wrong reason. I think there's a lot of people that picked up Something is Killing the Children because of the hype. There was a lot of reader hype around the first 10 issues, and then they started picking it up around issue number 11, thinking that the value that came with the scarcity to some degree and the demand for those early issues would also take place for the later issues. And it really hasn't. Basically hasn't at all. And I think people pick up an anniversary issue like issue number 25 and they think, oh, something really significant is going to happen and it's going to be really, really valuable on the secondary market. And so their FOMO kicks in, and then when their FOMO isn't rewarded, they get upset and they're like, I don't know about this title anymore. Listen, the story is fantastic. There was something that's of significance that happened in this issue, but it's not going to be something that's going to make it pop on the secondary market, at least not right now. So as a read, I still love Something is Killing the Children. I think it's amazing. But if people are in it just for the speculation of it, I could see them being really disappointed and maybe they should move on to something else. All right, let's go ahead and move forward with this video. I don't even know, I didn't even count them. I think it's 7 different books I'm going to talk about today, so I'm going to try to move through them fairly quickly. My first book that I want to mention this week is a new book. It is called The Deadliest Bouquet, issue number 1 of a 5-issue limited series from Image Comics. Here's the description. Mini-series premiere. Jasmine Hawthorne was a hard-edged Nazi hunter who trained her children well in the art of espionage. But in 1998, when her complicated past finally catches up with her, it's up to her 3 estranged daughters, Rose, Poppy, and Violet, to solve their mom's murder, if they can avoid killing each other in the process. Okay, this sounds like it could be an interesting story. This is a week that is a light week that's filled with some odd speculation. So if you're like me and you don't have much that you're pulling this week, this might be one worth checking out. It sounds like it could be a cool story. It's only 5 issues, so it's a limited commitment. It sounds like it could be entertaining, so I mentioned it to you. The next book is a new book called Love Everlasting, issue number 1 from Image Comics. Here's the description. From Superstar award-winning creators Tom King and Elsa Chartier comes a new ongoing series set in a world as frighteningly fantastical as any found beyond the stars. Romance comics. Joan Peterson discovers that she is trapped in an endless cycle, a problem to be solved, a man to marry. And every time she falls in love, she disappears into another teary saga. Her bloody journey to freedom starts in this breathtaking, groundbreaking first issue. Okay, so this one was a tough one for me to put on the list initially. Why? Because it's a romance comic. I have never read a romance comic. I have zero interest in romance comics. But romance comics were a major part of comic book history. So having romance comics as a genre is a legitimate thing, at least historically. Daisy, why did you come up here if you're going to make so much noise? Hi, everybody. It's the return of Daisy. Say hello, Daisy. Hi. Okay, so since you're going to make something, so you can sit here and behave? Okay, great. So I think getting a romance comic is perfectly acceptable. Reading a romance comic is perfectly acceptable. They're just not very popular or very interesting to me these days. But what is interesting to me is that it's from writer Tom King, and Tom King is legit, all right? It also refers to her bloody journey to freedom, starts in this breathtaking, groundbreaking first issue. Okay, a reference to her bloody journey makes me think that there's more there than just, I love him or her, and they aren't interested in me, and I'm sad about it. That's my impression of a romance comic, but maybe this one has more going on than that. And finally, I hope you've been paying attention as they're scrolling by. There are some really great covers for this book as well. So if you've ever been romance comic curious, I think this is a fantastic opportunity to check one out. I might even do the same just to see if there's something there. You know, I never thought I would be into horror comics, and I'm reading a fair amount of what is qualified as those these days. So maybe this is a week to give romance comics a try. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is Predator, issue number 1 from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. Hunt, kill, repeat. In the near future, a young girl sees her family slaughtered by the deadliest and most feared hunter in the universe, a predator. Years later, though her ship is barely holding together and food is running short, Theta won't stop stalking the spaceways until the Yautja monster who killed her family is dead, or she is. Ed Brisson and Kevin Walker forge a violent, heartbreaking, and unforgettable new chapter in the Predator saga, not to be missed. Parental advisory. Okay, so as everybody knows, the characters Predator and the Xenomorphs from Alien and Aliens and all those are now part of the Marvel Universe. This is the premiere of the Predator in the Marvel Universe. And that is inherently awesome. The Predator is an uber hunter, alien hunter, and I look forward to see the role that the Predator race, I guess, will play in the Marvel Universe at large. I was excited when Marvel first had their Alien book, and I checked it out, and I was like, well, this is just another Alien story. I wanted to see these characters in the Marvel Universe, interacting with Marvel characters that I already know. So I'm hoping that the Predator will do that, because I think that that's where the most interest is for me and probably for a lot of other people. And I actually think the Predator, specifically even more than the Xenomorphs, is going to fit really nicely into the Marvel Universe. So it's interesting for me to see how they're going to use these characters. And it all begins here. So if you're a long-standing Predator fan, and I totally understand why you would be, the Predator as a character is very cool. You're definitely going to want to check this out. And if you're just curious to see how they might be using Predator in the Marvel Universe at large, that's another reason to check this out this week. Okay, the next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is called X-Men Legends, issue number 1. This is from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. An all-new tale set before Giant Size X-Men number 1. Before Giant Size X-Men brought Storm, Wolverine, Colossus, Nightcrawler, and Thunderbird to the team, Roy Thomas redefined the Merry Mutants in 2 seminal runs on the book. Now, Roy, at long last, returns to the saga of the X-Men to take us through the period between his run and Giant Size X-Men. For the first time, detailing Wolverine's government missions before his recruitment by Professor X, including unrevealed detail on his battle with the Green Goliath in Hulk number 181-182. An untold episode involving Beast and a host of missing mutants, and the secret behind Wolverine's costume. Kicking off an all-new volume of X-Men Legends by a host of legendary creators. This is but the first story in a run of new, in-continuity tales covering the length and breadth of X-Men history, from the early eras to fan-favorite later-day sagas. Face front, true believers, these are the missing links you've been looking for. Daisy, you excited about X-Men Legends? This is one of the 2 books that I'm going to mention this week that I'm not sure if I'm going to buy, but I am very tempted to buy. I am a gigantic X-Men fan, specifically of the Claremont era X-Men. The X-Men team that was alluded to, came to reality through Giant Size X-Men issue number 1. You know, Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, Thunderbird. When they became the team, that's my X-Men right there. So the fact that we're going to get in-continuity stories about these characters before they joined the X-Men, that's interesting to me, because these are characters that I love. And knowing more about them from this period is really, really appealing to me. So I am definitely considering picking these up. The Marvel is doing a lot of stories of retelling from classic X-Men eras. It's almost like they know that people, X-Men fans like myself, aren't very enthusiastic about the current X-Men run, but they don't want to abandon the world of mutants as it stands right now. So they give us these stories that take place back in time and call them in continuity. Now, will the fact that they're in continuity be impactful at all? Will we get new characters that we haven't ever seen before that might be relevant in places like the MCU? Maybe. But that seems like quite a leap. This seems more like more stories for fans of a classic era of X-Men like myself. And I'm not mad at them for it. I just hope that it doesn't feel extraneous, tacked on, unnecessary. I hope that they tell stories that I will care about, that aren't just fan service or flushing out information that we don't really need. There's only one way to find out, and that is to pick this up and read it. So since I am such a fan of this era, and because it is such a light week for me, it's likely I'll pick this up. And if you're an X-Men fan as well, I recommend it for you. All right, the next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is called Samurai Doggy, issue number 1 from Aftershock Comics. Maybe that's why Daisy wanted to come sit with me because she knew we'd be talking about Samurai Doggy. So this one's for you. So I'm going to hold you up for this one so we can get your reaction, okay? Here we go. Here's the description. During the Fourth War of the Sun, a small dog named Doggy experienced an irreparable trauma. His mother was brutally murdered, and his 8 brothers, still puppies, were kidnapped by a mysterious man. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. To save them, Doggy fought bravely against the terrible killer, but all his efforts were in vain, and he was left for dead. What nobody imagined was that a technological vulture scavenging the region for corpses would be the one to rescue the dying dog from death's scythe. Now Doggy has become Samurai Doggy, and his only goal is to quench his thirst for revenge. Written by Chris Tex and illustrated by Santos, Samurai Doggy is a story of loss, revenge, and the journey to defeat the greatest empire of machines and robots that has ever existed. Okay, what do you think, Daisy? Sound good? She seems to be on the fence. So I have to admit, when I first started reading the description for this, I wasn't going to mention it today because I was like, Samurai Doggy, I just don't know. It sounds like a bit too cutesy for me. It's a dog named Doggy. Samurai Doggy. I was like, I don't know. But then as I started to read more about the description and the plot, I thought to myself, if this samurai character wasn't a dog, this story might be interesting to me. Being in kind of a technological, a techno world. I mean, this vulture that saves him is a robot vulture. The world sounds interesting, and I mean, a story of a revenge on a samurai on a revenge mission is a classic type of story. It sounds like it could be entertaining. It sounds like it could be cool. And it just happens to be that the main character is a dog named Doggy. So I wonder how dark this is going to be. I wonder how violent it's going to be. I kind of hope that it is dark and violent because I think that would make it, I think it would suit the story. But maybe because you are making the main character a samurai dog named Doggy, maybe you need to protect yourself from kids that are like, ooh, I want to read about a samurai doggy, and all of a sudden there's just blood and guts and everything. So this may be something for younger audiences. If you're looking for something for a younger comic book reader this week, maybe pick this up, flip through it first, and make sure that it's not too violent. But maybe this could be something that'd be entertaining because it seems like it could be a cool story worth checking out. So I mention it to you. Okay, the next book that I want to mention is Sandman issue number 1 special edition. This is from DC Black Label. Here's the description. To help maintain fan excitement around the high-profile adaptation of this seminal comic series, DC offers The Sandman Special Edition, a promotional comic featuring an excerpt of 1988's The Sandman issue number 1 by Neil Gaiman and Sam Keith, alongside a reading guide to the legendary saga. Okay, first the cons on this one. It's $7.50. That's expensive. Hopefully that means there's going to be a lot of content there, so keep that in mind. In addition, this is a good and bad thing about this book. A lot of comic book stores aren't going to have this at all. If I'm understanding this correctly, you had to order 25 to get any of them. And ordering 25 copies of a $7.50 book that is mostly just reprinted material and a reading guide is a tough sell for retailers. If I was a retailer, I would have probably, if I didn't have like a huge clientele, I would have taken the safe bet and not pick this up. But here is why I am going to mention this book this week. Once again, it might be rare and difficult to find. And rarity tends to equate to value. But there also has to be desirability there. There has to be demand. And here's the deal. This Netflix series of The Sandman just premiered this past week. I have not seen it yet, but all the response that I have encountered about it is overwhelmingly positive. People seem to really be enjoying it. If you have been watching this Sandman series, let me know down in the comments what you thought of it. No spoilers, please. But let me know. I really liked it. I really hated it. It's fine. Or the jury's still out. Excuse me. But because this comic book in particular is likely to be rare, and because people are enjoying the show so much, I think there's going to be a demand for it. I think this might be worth checking out. But don't pick it up because I'm putting together this equation, because at $7.50, it is quite an expensive swing. It is quite an expensive gamble. Not crazy expensive, but for something that might not be worth anything to anybody at some point, it is on the higher end. But if I see this in a comic book store, I think I'm going to be so surprised to see it that I'm probably going to pick up a copy of it if I can find a really crisp, beautiful copy of it, just to have, just in case this Sandman series becomes a massive hit, because it might, because people seem really enthusiastic about it. All right, so those are all my honorable mentions. That leads me to my just one book pick of the week. And the reason this is my just one book pick of the week is because it is the only book this week that I am guaranteed to buy. So it is my just one book pick of the week. And that book is 8 Billion Genies, issue number 4 from Image Comics. Here's the description. Welcome to the first 8 weeks. As the world continues to change in the wake of the genies appearing to everyone on Earth and offering them a single wish, things are getting intense. Plenty of folks have wished for superpowers, and we all know what happens when you get a bunch of superpowered people together. They fight. How will our heroes survive the powered age? Okay. So once again, as I mentioned in my intro to my pick for this week, I'm buying this. This is my pick because it's the one book that I am buying this week for sure. It's the only one. Therefore, it is the one book I'm most excited about. Therefore, it is my just one book pick of the week. I've really been enjoying 8 Billion Genies. They basically started off with like what happened in the first 8 minutes. Then they went to the first 8 hours. Then they went to the first 8 days. Now they're up to the first 8 weeks. And the way that the story is playing out is really, really fun and entertaining, and bonkers, and makes no sense, but while making a complete sense all at the same time. It's just turning out to be a very entertaining story, a very entertaining concept that's playing out in a very entertaining way. I'm enjoying it more than I would have expected. And the fact that they're doing this incrementally increasing the amount of time that they're focusing on since the initial instance of these genies showing up is also interesting to me, because they're at first 8 weeks. They'll probably have first 8 months and then first 8 years, and then who knows where they're going to go from there. But I'm interested in the long-term repercussions of this genie explosion on the planet. I'm completely hooked on the story. It's part of the reason why I was so triggered, and I mentioned this, I believe, in last week's video, when I went out to buy issue number 3, because my LCS hasn't been ordering this book. I don't know why. Hopefully they'll have issue number 4 for me. So I had to go find issue number 3 someplace else the day after it came out, and I couldn't find it anywhere. It was either sold out or overpriced and marked up. And I just wanted to read it because I really, really enjoyed it. But people have jumped all over this title because it has been optioned. Now, take the hype with a grain of salt. There has been a lot of hype around books in the past that haven't quite paid off. And it doesn't mean they won't pay off long term, but there's a lot of people who want to buy these books because of the hype, and they want to win big and hit big on these books like immediately. And a lot of times that those big hits come from shows actually hitting the television screen, and that takes time. Like, people are down on Stray Dogs right now because there was all this hype around Stray Dogs, and then they put out a ton of covers, all those homage covers, and people were scooping them up like crazy, thinking that they were going to retire off of Stray Dogs, and now the title is way down. The whole market's down, but the title itself is down. Well, it's because we're between the initial hype of release and the potential release of, I don't know, a movie or a series. Who knows if they're going to do something with it. It's been optioned, just like 8 Billion Genies has, but there's a long journey from the comic book first coming out through being optioned to actually ending up being a show. So, grain of salt, all the option news around this, but people are really, really excited about 8 Billion Genies. I think part of that is for what I mentioned. It's because I think the story is really, really, really good, and I'm enjoying it. It's fun and entertaining, but I think there's a lot of the snowball rolling down the hill and getting bigger and bigger. The momentum that's coming with the option news and the hype of people jumping on it, and the prices going up on the secondary market for not just issue number 1, but for issue number 2 and 3 as well. I think is making this title have a brighter spotlight on it than maybe it deserves right now. So, grain of salt, all of that. That being said, it is a really entertaining read. And if you're saying to yourself, Jeff, I missed out on issues number 1, 2, and 3, I'm not going to start with issue number 4. Maybe I'll just wait and pick it up as a trade when it's in a collected edition. I get that. I totally support that. Go for it. But if you want to try to start picking it up with issue number 4 and getting it monthly, something I will mention is that there is already, I believe, well, yes, there's already a second print of issue number 1 out. I don't know if that's selling for above cover price, but there are second prints of issues number 2 right here and issue number 3 right here coming out this week as well. So these are 2 good opportunities to buy these titles, issues number 2 and 3, for cover price, because you can't do that anymore. So these second prints might be a good opportunity to do that. Also, for all of you later print collectors, you might want to know about this as well. It's debatable whether or not the print runs for these second prints are going to be significantly less than the print runs of the first print. Usually that's what draws people to later prints, is that they are a significantly lower print run. But in this instance, I don't know that the print run of issues number 2 and 3 were that high in the first place, and I don't know how heavily people were ordering on these second prints based off of the hype around the first print. So the print runs might not be significantly less for these second prints. So keep that in mind. But if you want them to read, this might be a fantastic opportunity to do that with these second prints. So because I really, really like the title, I really have enjoyed reading it, and because there is speculation hype with it and value on the secondary market, although I expect that to cool off significantly with this issue number 4, and because it's the one book this week on my poll that I'm guaranteed to buy, these are all the reasons that 8 Billion Genies issue number 4 is my just one book pick for the week. All right. Another long video. I always told myself I'd be shortening these, and then I just keep talking, but I have things that I think I wanted to share with you, so I hope that that information has value to you. If you like these videos, hit the like button. If you haven't already subscribed, I invite you to subscribe. I think it's the thing to do it. Almost at 500. Get me there, please. All right, as always, thank you all so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.